This interview is disseminated on behalf of King Copper, and this is John Feneck, your host with the Feneck Commodities Report. And with me today is my podcast partner, Don Durrett, founder of goldstockdata.com. Don, how are you?
Good, John. Looking forward to another show.
Yeah, me too. We've got a really interesting one waiting in the wings with Jonathan Richards, and we're going to get to him in about 5 to 10 minutes. King Copper's ripping higher in the copper junior space. These copper stocks are really flying under the radar because copper is quietly doing quite well in the last number of months. And if it wasn't for like gold and silver and everything else ripping higher, I think it would be getting a little more credit. Don, let's talk gold and silver and a little bit about the macro within those two metals. I'll just pass it on to you and I'll comment.
Yeah, so I mean, gold has really been, the monster. I mean, it took off February 24. It was at $2,000 and just has been ripping nonstop. Now it's up to $5,000. Who would have thought? I mean, it started the year at 4,300. Who would have? It just keeps going and going and going. It's the Energizer Bunny, and I don't think it's going to stop. Now we have had two hiccups. We had one in October. We had a 12% correction in gold, and then we just had another one. It was more than 10%. I think it was 12% again. We were at 5,600. We went all the way down to 4,400. So maybe we didn't get quite to 12. I don't do the math on that, but another significant correction in gold. The last one it took 4 weeks to get a new all-time high. This one, we're about only less than 2 weeks in. So this one's probably only going to take 4 weeks as well. We'll probably, maybe it'll take a little more, 4 to 8 weeks. I mean, that's what I said before the correction in October. I said these corrections are probably only going to be 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
We're just ride the train, and we're going to have higher highs, and that's my expectation. Silver, silver became a monetary metal in August. When it was below $35, it wasn't a monetary metal. It was still trading as a base metal. Once it got above 35, it turned into a monetary metal. Once that happened, investors showed up, and once investors showed up, you don't have enough silver. So we started seeing inventory issues at LBMA. Now we're seeing them in Shanghai, and we're seeing them in COMEX. So LBMA, they've lost like 2/3 of their inventory in 2 years. They were like over 1,000 tons. Now they're down to about 350 tons. So they're just whittling away. Same thing at COMEX. COMEX is actually more severe. They're talking about actually running out of silver in March. Depending on the percentage of people that take delivery. But the deliveries have been astronomical. In February this month, 98% of the contracts have been delivered. 98%. So wow. Basically, everybody that's been doing these contracts, buying silver, it's all been deliveries. Because February is usually a month that people don't hedge. So with the hedgers on there, the only people that are putting contracts in there are people that want their silver. So people are using COMEX to acquire silver. And then I don't know the percentage of deliveries in January, but it was quite high, over 70%, maybe 80%. 49 million ounces were delivered. They're expecting deliveries over 100 million ounces in March. And so silver, it's basically ripped. It's up over 200. It was up over 200% before it did this correction from 35 to 120. And now it's down, stuck in a range between 70 and 90. I think it'll stay in this range a little while longer. And then I'm expecting 70 to hold, and then we break out above 90, and then we get another all-time high, and we have another run. And we go a little ways, and then we correct again. I'm expecting a lot of corrections this year. I'm expecting 4 to 5, so this is the first one. I'm expecting at least 4 more. That would be 5 for the year. You expect a lot of volatility. But bottom line is gold is going higher and silver is going to follow.
Yeah, okay. Great analysis. When you say that COMEX is talking about running out of silver possibly in March, like, can you expand for the average listener on what that means to, the silver price and how this is happening? Like, because we're hearing a lot of well, at least I'm hearing a lot of things online that are contradicting each other, right? Like Kitco is talking about, some guests are talking about there is no silver. Then you look over here and you're saying, well, there's only this much silver disruption, and so what is your take on that?
We know that there's basically not enough registered for the current open interest. So depending, I think it's 27%. If right now, if they take deliveries of 27%, and we know it's going over that, it's going to wipe out the registered. So the key is what's the percentage of this open interest is going to go for delivery? And then how much of the eligible is going to go, okay, well, you can have our silver too. Now that people are taking delivery, a lot of these people that have eligible are like, I don't think I'm going to put mine in the registered category. So there's about 350 million ounces that are in eligible. I just don't think it's moving over to registered. And if it doesn't, that's how they run out. So I think that we're going to see deliveries over 100 million, maybe up to 200 million ounces. It's going to be pretty touch and go here. And depending, if the registered, anything is in registered can be delivered. Eligible, that just means it's sitting on the COMEX, but it can't be delivered. And they're basically just using, the COMEX as a inventory, a place to hold stuff, really. And so, register could run out.
I get it. Thank you. So, I guess there's a couple of things to comment on. One is we haven't seen three margin hikes in like a week-long period like we have recently here in history, to my knowledge. I mean, they're doing everything they can to hurt the price and to hurt sentiment, and it's still not working, right? Like, I mean, it's pretty amazing. Number two, the silver run here and the gold run has been happening without World War III, without a black swan event, without like all the things that people are writing about. Like Venezuela, to me, was sort of a nothing burger in the sense that we just went in and extracted Maduro overnight. And like, have you even heard much about it since then? Like, I mean, it's really went away. And so gold and silver haven't lost momentum there. A lot of people were thinking, oh, this was one of the drivers. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but it's a much bigger picture. It's about the 39 trillion in debt. There's so many factors here, right? It's not just about geopolitical. And so I think the average client needs to say, wow, this is like the best backdrop ever for gold and silver. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. So people don't understand why gold's at $5,000. Because the only way you understand why gold's at $5,000 is if you study history. What are the fundamental drivers that push gold higher? Now, sometimes it's inflation, but normally it isn't. This has nothing to do with inflation, ironically. Nothing to do with inflation. This is all about systemic risk of the U.S. economy and the U.S. bond market. U.S. bonds are supposed to have zero risk. And the only way that they have zero risk is if the U.S. economy is sound. And the U.S. economy, you just mentioned it, 39 trillion in debt. We're borrowing $2 trillion of debt. The U.S. economy is becoming unsound. And that's the reason why gold's going up, because if you're a foreign country and you're holding treasuries, they say you have dollars, we're holding dollars as reserve currency. They're not holding dollars, they're holding debt. They're holding our US treasuries, not dollars. That's what they're holding. They just call them dollars. But they consider those basically a risk-free asset, like you're holding gold. And they're like, now wait a minute, are these treasury bonds, are they really risk-free? Because they're not. And people are starting to recognize they're not. And once that happens, we enter into an era. This is what Ray Dalio has really been trying to explain, but nobody's listening to him on Wall Street, is that we are entering a new monetary order. So the reason is because you cannot have the global reserve currency backed by bonds that are basically no longer risk-free. And they carry risk. At that point, everything becomes unstable. And so this is the reason gold's going higher, because countries are going, those bonds, I don't think I want to hold that many of them. And so I'm going to sell some of those bonds and buy gold. And so central banks are buying more gold than treasuries. And so the net reserves now are higher in gold than they are in treasuries. 5 years ago, it wasn't even close. It was like 70%, 30%. Now it's gold is higher than silver. And that trend isn't going to change. And in America, now you have to think about this in terms from a foreign viewpoint. In America, the Wall Street controls the narrative and the mainstream media controls the narrative. And they make it sound like the economy is in fantastic shape because they look at GDP, which is a very misleading number. They look at the S&P 500 at all-time high, which is a very misleading number. They look at employment, very misleading number. And they look at that and they basically say that, oh, America, we have a sound economy, everything is fine. But when you dig underneath it a little bit, you're a foreigner, you're going, man, that they're just all they're doing is holding that thing up with debt. That's all they're doing. They're just printing money and holding it up with debt and just doing everything they can. And they're like, I don't know how much longer this is going to last. And so it's that risk, if you will, is why gold's going higher and why it will continue going higher. I've been saying this, that it's just a matter of time before the S&P 500 stops going higher. We already lost the leadership. The leadership was AI. That's in technology. So software company and technology, those are supposed to be the leader. Those are gone. So we no longer have the leadership. So once you lose leadership, it's just a matter of time before, something's coming to an end here. And when you see that end coming, when you can see it coming, that's when you start preparing and you start buying gold. And gold is going to be the only place to hide. You have to understand the degree of change that can happen if this unfolds. Because we're not talking small numbers here. You mentioned $39 trillion. These are trillions.
Right.
Just the U.S. economy alone, I'll end it here. The U.S. economy alone is worth $65 trillion. 20% of that, about $13 trillion, is foreign money. And that 13 trillion is hot money. It's here because they're making money because the stock market's been going up. But right now they're not making money. We're flat for the year. We're at an all-time high, but we started the year about 6,800, I think. So we're flat for the year. It won't take much for that money to go, okay, that's done, and it starts leaving. You're talking $13 trillion is going to leave the stock market, and maybe not all of it, but 25%. $5 trillion is basically, okay, we're done with that. That's what happened to Japan in 1989. And Japan was 50% of the US stock market. We're about 65, 70% of the global. Japan was 50% of the global stock markets in 1989. Today, it's 5. They went from 50 to 5. That's what can happen. And that's what we got right now. The US and we're about ready to experience that situation. We're going to have a religious experience when the S&P stops coming higher. That's the reason why gold is trending, because people realize, just connect the dots. It's like, how much longer can the U.S. print prosperity, print GDP? Because that's what we're doing. Those $2 trillion deficits are printing GDP, printing prosperity.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Don. Appreciate that. Let's leave it there. And we'll bring on Jonathan Richards, who is CEO of King Copper. We'll have the tickers in the show notes for everyone. Hey, how are you, Jonathan?
Hey, John. Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. Happy to be here.
So, Jonathan, could you walk us through some slides here for 7 or 8 minutes, and then we'll ask some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. First, thank you very much for having me, John and Don. I've been a big fan of your podcast for a while now. Great discussion. Thanks. And really happy to introduce King Copper Discovery and the Colquemayo Project, both to you and to your audience. So King Copper Discovery, we're focused on the Colquemayo Project. It's a tier 1 porphyry target in Moquegua in southern Peru. And it's characterized by a large high sulfidation copper, silver, and gold project. A bit like Don speaking about understanding the history of gold. I think it's really important that we understand a bit of the history of this project as well, because it really explains why we are where we are right now. So this project has actually been held by two majors in the past, both of who have drilled this. So first off, this was drilled by Rio Tinto. They drilled a total of 7,000 meters, and they last drilled the project in 2005. Following that, a project you guys know well, or a company, sorry, you both know well, Buenaventura, they had the project, and they actually last drilled the project in 2013, and they drilled a total of 20,000 meters. So in total, there's already been 27,000 meters of past drilling. And that's, I think, part of where the value is in this company, and a lot of people didn't realize this, but there's already been, we've gained probably 5 years, tens of millions of dollars in the work that has already been done by two major companies. And as you can see on the slide, some of the past results really are spectacular. 237 meters of 2.4% copper. Within that, you see almost concentrate grade copper, where we've got 15 meters of 27% copper. In addition to that, you obviously see the gold and the silver within the system. The second highlight hole there, I've got there 100 meters of 1.11% copper. Now, these aren't two isolated drill holes. What we have, this is a significant lithocap. And Doug Kerwin, who's our lead technical advisor, if he was here, he really speaks to two things that you need to be a comparable project to Filo del Sol or Lunahuasi. Number one, you're looking for this large lithocap, and we tick that box. We've got a 12 by 4 kilometer known mineralized lithocap. The second thing you're looking for is obviously for that lithocap to be mineralized. And the past drilling over almost 10 kilometers of this lithocap, we see results like the ones on the screen right across. Now, these two are obviously two of the higher grade results, but as you'll see on a later slide, we do see a number of other high grade results. So really the big thing with this project is the geological comparisons. I'll show it more on a later slide, but we're talking about Filo del Sol, which is, BHP in Lundin acquired in a friendly acquisition for, I think it was $3 billion US. NGEX is Lunahuasi right now. I believe that's trading around a $6 billion, that's Canadian market cap on the exchange. So these projects are significant. And the other thing I want to point out is both Filo and Lunahuasi, that geological model, they knew about the lithocap and the energites in it, but the deep-seated porphyries below them, that's really only started to get better known over the last sort of 5 to 7 years. And during that time, if you look at the Vicuña district, which has Filo and Lunahuasi, we've seen over $10 billion of value creation. So these type of projects, the world is looking for more copper. It's looking for big copper projects. So, that's really why we've had so much interest in this company. And, we're hopeful that we can use, obviously, the past drilling to vector in on these porphyry targets. I'll just quickly mention the technical team, because I think that's key to any company and project. So the lead technical advisor, that's Doug Kerwin. I don't know if you guys know Doug Kerwin, but he's a 50-plus year geologist, spent over 20 years of his career working with Robert Friedland. He's credited with the Oyu discovery, co-recipient of the Thayer Lindsay Award in 2004 for that. He spent almost his whole career focused on porphyries and porphyry discoveries. So he's the right guy to be that lead technical advisor. The key guy on the ground, and he was really the guy that identified this project and brought it to the company, is Chico Azevedo. He's another seasoned geologist, 40-plus years. He worked with IM Gold, Goldfields. He's credited with a number of discoveries. And he's the guy really leading everything right now in Peru. So I wanted to quickly show the slide here. What you can see going right up through Argentina, Chile, and into Peru is all these tier 1 porphyries. So we're right on that band. You can see where we are in southern Peru. Now, southern Peru is, as you guys know, is the premier copper district in Peru. So within 50 kilometers of us, we have Freeport Cerro Verde. As an example, Cerro Verde at that mine moves over 1 million tons of rock a day. It's a huge operation, 400,000 tons of ore. On the other side of us, under 100 kilometers away, is Qualaveco. That's Anglo American's mine. Cervida is a top 3 copper producer in the world right now, and Qualivaco, after they've done their next round of development, is also looking like it's going to be a top 3 copper producer. So we're in, lack of a better term, people describe it as elephant country, and that's really where we are. In addition, one other thing I like to point out is Tia Maria, which is also close by. Now, why that's important is Tia Maria just got its mining permit and has started to break ground on construction. And I think that's important to highlight, the positive news, and not just news, but the actual actions coming out of Peru. You're seeing them issue permits right now. You're seeing them move forwards with new mines. So it's really positive. In terms of our project itself, what I do like to point out is some of the advantages that I think we have over some of these other tier 1 porphyries or potential discoveries. So where we are, as I mentioned, it's not a greenfields brand new project. This has been drilled twice before. So we have communities that have already experienced exploration. The roads have already been put in place. So we have really good access from the town of Arequipa. It's only about 100 kilometers away, and that's a mix of gravel and paved roads. 200 kilometers away from us in southern Peru, you have Ilo Port. Now, Ilo Port is the current port that ships about 90% of the copper concentrate out from Peru. So that's only 200 kilometers away from us. We're less than 50 kilometers away from rail, and that's a rail line that currently goes to the Ilo Port, shipping concentrate from another mine. So we just have a lot of advantages. We're at a slightly lower elevation than Lunahasi and Filo, and any drop in elevation is obviously a big advantage. So yeah, we really think we're in a great jurisdiction. Now, this is really one of the key slides, and if I had Doug Kerwin with me, he'll do a much better job on the technical side of things. But what you see on the left is Filo del Sol, in the middle is Valorano, and then on the right in the copper color, you see the Colquemayo Project. Now, what the 3 projects have in common is they have this lithocap, which you can see in ours in the yellow color. Now, interestingly, Filo and Valorano both had past drilling as well in their lithocap, in that enegite system. So they all have that high mineralized enegite system. But it wasn't until more recently that geological model was much better understood, and Filo was really the one that kick-started it all, that people started drilling, below this mineralized lithocap. So if you're looking at the King Copper one, you can see this very large lithocap. You see it's mineralized. And then in the green below, you see that the hypothetical, they're for illustrative purposes, the porphyry targets. Now, what you do see at Filo and Valorano is that the porphyries aren't offset. They're directly below this high-grade enegite breccias zone. So, that's what our plan really is to test these porphyries below that system. So a couple of things on this slide. This shows what we plan to do. And the permit that we're applying for right now, it's a 35,000 meter drill permit. And that's off a total of 35 drill platforms. It's 60 drill holes. And it's really testing these deep porphyries. You can see the 2 blue lines are illustrative of the first couple of holes we want to do. We have a lot of confidence that the porphyries are there for a couple of reasons. Number one, top right of the slide there, you can see that sample that's taken from the Cariani zone. That's actually Maricunga style veining. So that's a type of veining you see as you get closer to the porphyry. And then in some of the past drill holes, the deeper drill holes, I was with Chico and Doug at the core shack a few weeks back, and they pointed out the bottom of some of the holes that they could see porphyroite and minerals that show and styles of veining that they're getting closer to a porphyry system. So the technical team, they're confident that the porphyry system's there. We just need to drill some deep holes to test it, and it really comes down to how big is the porphyry, and then what grade is the most important of the porphyries. The other question, because of the size of this mineralized zone being 12 kilometers by 4 kilometers, is it's likely a multiple porphyry story. So we could be looking at a Vicuña style situation or play versus a single standalone porphyry like Filo. I put this slide up for one reason. It was really just to illustrate some of the other holes across this project. I did mention it, but this is about 10 kilometers across, and this just illustrates how mineralized this system is. And it really highlights the amount of fluids that must have come up and how much metal were in the fluids right across this mineralized zone. On the top left there, you can see some of the precious metal enrichment, almost 8 meters of 1,866 grams per ton silver. Over on the left there, you see over 100 meters of almost 0.5 grams per ton gold, and that's in an oxide material from surface. So some very, interesting numbers, and it really shows why our team is so excited and why so early on in the start of this project we managed to attract a major to take 9.9% of the company. Just on the capital structure, so we're sitting around 313 million shares out, trading at a market cap right now slightly over 300 million. We closed north of $1 today. What's important to note on our cap structure here, very early on, when we first went out with the story, we had a lot of majors actually reach out to us. The first one we went and presented to, they asked straight away to take 9.9% of the company. They participated in the last financing as well to maintain 9.9% of the company. In the most recent financing, we had another strategic investor come in for 9.9% of the company. He's a business entrepreneur, a really mining entrepreneur, very well known. So we've got a lot of interest in this project. It really is, the potential when you compare it to a Filo or a Luna Hasi. It's one of these big potential projects, and that type of project has the potential to create value very quickly. Board management and close associates, we hold about 30% of the company. We have a few high net worth, very close associates that have also taken the company. Retail investors sit around 25%, and then institutional with a bunch of smaller institutionals that also hold positions of the company. With the last two financings, we do have over $30 million in cash. So we are fully funded for the DIA, which is a 35,000 meter drill program. So just to quickly recap, really we believe we have all the ingredients for a major discovery here at the Colquemayo Project. As I mentioned, we have the right geological setting. It's got a very large mineralized corridor there. We do have one of the best addresses on the planet to make major copper porphyry discoveries. We already have the high grade, copper proven mineralization. Our geological comparisons are Filo del Sol and Luna Hasi. As I mentioned, the Vicuña district created over $10 billion of value in a very short period of time. Very early on, we've attracted, we believe, the right shareholders. We've strengthened the share register, attracting a major and some high net worth business mining entrepreneurs. We're fully funded, as I mentioned, for the next drill campaign, which is 35,000 meters. We have a number of catalysts coming over the next few months. That will be hopefully the drill permit, then commencement of drilling, and obviously we are targeting the porphyries right out of the gate. I personally believe we have, one of the best copper exploration targets in the junior markets right now.
Great, Jonathan. Well, thank you. I'll start it off with some questions. You can keep your slides up. If you want to go back a few slides to the share structure, please.
Yes.
So it looks like here there's 313 million out, but 25% is retail. So a lot of these shares are tied up in good hands, right? Because you've got two strategics at 9.9, board and management own almost a third of the stock. Who are the institutional owners?
Yeah, I haven't got the list in front of me. I apologize for that. It is a number of smaller ones that generally participate in the copper space with the junior companies, and they're a mix of American, Canadian, Australian, and European institutions.
Okay. And on the permitting side, because Buenaventura, did the 20,000 meters so many years ago, what's your, confidence level that you're going to get this 35,000 meter permit?
I think a lot of positiveness is coming out of Peru right now. So there's, I guess, two parts to this story. There's the Peru element and then our own confidence. Right now, if I was to describe Peru in one word, I'd probably say I'm very optimistic. We are seeing a lot of permits being issued. We're seeing investment money go back into Peru. I think for the first time in a few years, they saw a huge growth in exploration in Peru. So Peru itself, and also the election that's coming up in April, you are seeing a move back to the right. So I think that these are all very positive things for mining. Specifically on the permit, what we have seen as we've engaged, with the communities, engaged with the ministry, is we've seen responsiveness. So every time we've submitted any sort of comments or any requests they've had, they've been quick to respond and come back to us. So right now they are guiding 6 to 8 months approximately for the permit issuance. We've seen other companies that submitted slightly before us get their permits, and we're right in that 6 to 8 month window right now, and we've given them all the responses to all the requests they've had. So obviously no guarantee, in the ministry, they have a very detailed process, but we're confident from what we've seen. The two direct communities are in favor of us exploring there, and it's in a community or an area where mining is very well known.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay. And then the last question is just a couple of slides previous when you're showing the belt. So in the top left corner, you said Southern Copper's Tia Maria got permitted, right?
Yes.
So how far is that from King Copper's project?
It's a little bit further than Cerro Verde and Qualaveco. I believe it's a province over in Arequipa. It's somewhere. It's under 200. I haven't got the exact distance, but we are right amongst all those sort of high grade porphyry targets there, or deposits.
Okay, great. Thank you, Don. I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, Jonathan, just a few questions. The first one is, what is your end goal here, and what's your strategy to achieve it?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Don, and we do get asked that a bunch. And my background has been with the junior companies, so I'm more on the explorer side. I'm actually a CPA by background, and I've spent 20 years now working in various roles with junior exploration companies. First off, I think you have to keep advancing projects. You can't wait for a takeover, even when you've got it as discovery. Our group's very closely associated with K92 Mining. One of the key advisors is Brian Sluzarchuk, who was the former president of K92 Mining. We recently appointed Justin Blanchett to the board of directors of King Copper as well. He's the CFO of K92. So we are surrounded by that, I guess, ability to take something through to production. But these types of projects, it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar probably investment. These are generational mines that produce for a long time. And that's one of the reasons very early on we brought in, a major mining company. They're one of the biggest miners in the world. They have 9.9%, and that it shows a few things. It showed validation and management confidence in Peru and this project, but it also highlights the ability to actually advance this project and take it to the next step. And likewise with the high net worth mining entrepreneur as well that's come in. He's taken a number of mines into production as well. So we've surrounded ourselves by the right people. But right now, I think first things first, we need to make a major discovery, which hopefully we'll drill off later this year.
So if I heard you right, your strategy is to advance this project as far as you possibly can. If you don't get taken out, then you will take it all the way to a construction decision. Is that pretty much what I heard?
Yeah, I think we'd like to keep advancing it as long as we can. But yeah, likely, this will be a project for one of the majors, like, if you compare it to like a Filo, BHP and Lundin came in. So I think this will be a project for the majors because it will have major capital costs. But we will keep advancing it, and, we'd love to drill off the deposits ourselves.
Okay. Next question is, how many years do you think it's going to take you to drill it before it's kind of ready to develop?
That's another very, very good question. So these are significant porphyries. You see a lot of drilling going into them. Filo has moved very, very, very quickly. I would say they're in maybe a slightly more friendly exploration area. The permitting takes a little bit longer in Peru. So, ideally, the next 35,000 meters we drill, we've got a good idea. The plan is actually to test 4 porphyry targets, not a single porphyry target. And then, once we have those hits, we will then start to, drill it out. I think it's probably a 5+ year exercise to really drill off big targets like this. And I mean, as you guys know, I think the average life of any sort of deposit through to mine is close to 20 years. So it is a long period of time.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Don and John. Really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. We like Peru a lot, and we have a lot of money there through various projects. So this is definitely worth a stronger look. And if you don't mind now, just exiting, Don and I will summarize for our viewers.
Yeah, great. Thank you, guys.
So, Don, one thing that was really interesting to me that we didn't get to in the Q&A was Doug Kerwin, because this guy is like a renowned like Geo, 50 years experience. He spent 20 years with Robert Friedland over at Ivanhoe. I think just reading through the tea leaves, I mean, the person that he's talking about bringing on in terms of a strategic could be Robert Friedland, which would be a pretty nice endorsement because when he comes on to share, like that's like Eric Sprott coming into a stock in the copper world, right? Like Robert is very well known and has had a ton of success. So that'll be interesting to see. But clearly, they've done a lot of drilling here. Rio drilled 7,000 meters. BVN Buenaventura drilled 20,000 meters. So they're not just starting from scratch, and they've already had a lot of community involvement, which I think is positive.
Well, yeah, it's pretty evident that they have a significant discovery. It's going to get bigger. The question is how big.
So. Yep. Yeah, I mean they have to look at those porphyries and see what how long that takes, like you had asked. But 35,000 meter permit is almost double what BVN did years ago. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, Peru's government, he mentioned, is going through an election here in April, and he said it's moving to the right. So that's going to be pro mining, like we're seeing already with Argentina, Chile, and some other countries right near Peru.
He didn't mention there's a lot of silver on this property. He didn't mention that, but a lot of these drill holes are bringing back, 1 ounce per ton.
Yep. Yeah. There's obviously more to explore this one. And I'll give everyone the tickers. They should be in the show notes, but it's TBXXF in the States and KCP in Canada. Thanks, Don. Yeah, I appreciate your analysis. And I will just mention for our listeners, we've got our 2 conferences coming up, May 17 through 19 in Washington, D.C., May 20 through 22nd in Florida. The information will be in the show notes, so feel free to email me there if you're interested in attending. As we've said, here for the last couple of months that we've been talking about these conferences, Don and I attend a lot of conferences, and this is how you learn in a period of time like this. You don't do it 2 years from now when everything's, exploding higher. You do it now when you can still find value in the junior market. And also, Don and I will be doing our first webinar for clients like yourselves sometime in March. We haven't determined the date yet, but that'll be our first one in 2 years, Don. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So thanks, Don. Thanks to our listeners, and we'll see you next time.